David Snoad is currently residing in Switzerland. He has lived there for a long, long time.
50.
Yeah, 50?
50 years.
50 years, oh my gosh, with a background from the UK. I do get a request now if David's video is on. Yes, David's videos is on. I can see him. Maybe click on his video. I hope everybody else sees him as well. And David has had a wide variety of backgrounds, from restaurants to the energy side. And David, would you like to tell us a little bit of, on how you got into that?
Actually, this my profession of Doctor of Natural Healing is the third profession in my life, not the second one. And my first profession I did for 10 years, the second one for 20 years, and inshallah, when God will, my third profession I will manage for 30 years, at least. I was in the printing and publishing business to start with, in St. Gallen here in Switzerland, one of the biggest printer and publishing companies in Switzerland. Then I met my wife there, and she was working at the same company. We both left the company at the same time, and then started in the restaurant business. That was the time I made my hobby to my profession, because I remember when I was 7 years old, 7 or 9 years old, I don't remember exactly. I think I was 9 years old, I cooked a 7-course Italian meal for my brother and my parents. And we were in the restaurant business for 20 years. We were among the best, or voted to among the best 100 restaurants in Switzerland, which with 100 Go Mio points, 16 Go Mio points, sorry, if I said anything to you. And it was at the beginning of our time in the restaurant business that I had the feeling I wanted to become a doctor of natural medicine. Felt myself not mature enough, not enough life experience, and postponed that for almost 20 years until I did the education with the Paracelsus schools in Munich, and eventually then opened my own practice here in Switzerland. I started with electroacupuncture by Voll, and then moved on to bioresonance, and then took the next step to informational medicine with Radionics, and then just had more and more the feeling that spiritual healing is the future.
Right. Okay, so that's been a long journey. So the topic of your conversation has to do with, I think, what's behind you. We all see those boxes really clearly, nicely wrapped up all. So I'm thinking, I think you're embarking on a new adventure. Am I right?
You are right. You know it, Katerina, you know it. It was 2.5 years ago when my wife passed away. We had been married, a very, very happy marriage and partnership. We were always together. I think with the exception of about 10 days in those 38 years, we were together 24 hours a day, which is not, for some people can't even imagine to be able to do that with their partner, but with us it was no problem at all. And we enjoyed life. And when she passed away 2.5 years ago, I really got in a very bad state. And I realized then that if I wanted to continue to live, then I had to turn my life around 180 degrees. Both my wife and I have always loved the warmth. The winter is a bad time of the year for us with the cold. And I met a young man during our vacation. We went for years. We went to the United Arab Emirates to Abu Dhabi. I think we went about 30 times. And he started there as a lifeguard, and we became friends, and we never lost contact. He also came to Abu Dhabi a couple of times to help me care for my wife when she was already rather poorly. And I suddenly had the idea, why should I not move to Sri Lanka? He came from there. And these plans have now developed. And on the 13th of January, I will leave Europe with all the sadness which is in Europe at the moment. And we'll move to Sri Lanka. And about 2 hours north of Colombo, I found a lovely piece of land directly on the lagoon, which is ideal. Sri Lanka is energetically and spiritually very, very strong. I've heard from some people there's only one place which is stronger, and that is Bali. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, because I've never been there. But it has to do also with the fact that in Sri Lanka, there are 4 religions, and they all live peacefully next to each other. And sometimes even the festivities they have are joint, done by all 4 religions at the same time.
Wow. That is so good to hear that, yes.
And we've started slightly building. I was blocked for a while here in Switzerland on several lines, and we will start building at the beginning of January, and we hope to be finished by, if it's run smoothly, maybe 8 or 10 months. Because all the plans are ready. And then I will open a health center in Sri Lanka.
A health center?
Yeah.
What kind of therapies are you going to do there, David?
There will be a range of therapies. One can generally say holistic. Informational medicine continues to be something which I practice, but the main accent will be definitely on spiritual healing. Right.
Okay. And do you have a particular group in mind this health center is aimed at?
Not really. I think everyone is welcome. Doesn't depend on their language. It doesn't depend on the country they come from or their color. Everyone is welcome.
Okay.
And this is something which is also I experienced this openness, especially in Abu Dhabi, with the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque. When they opened it for the public at the beginning, before it was even completely finished, they had a pamphlet, a small leaflet, and they stated there quite clearly that everyone was welcome. Everyone. It doesn't matter what belief they had, what color they were, what language they spoke, everyone was welcome.
Mm-hmm.
There were just certain dress codes, which is normal in those countries, especially if you go to a mosque. But the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque is one of the most wonderful places in the world.
Okay, yeah, you've been there a couple of times. I've understood that, yes.
I've been there several times, yes.
Yes. So how does this idea come about? Because, I mean, Switzerland is a nice country to live in. Neutral.
It's not that I mean, my entry into spiritual healing was quite clearly quite a while ago, where, I mean, apart from being a doctor of natural medicine, having my practice here in Appenzellerland, in Heiden, I was also, my wife and I had a company which sold alternative medicinal systems.
Mm-hmm.
And it was through those sales that I got to know someone in Germany. I was at an exhibition in Heidelberg, I think it was, and I got to know him there. He comes from Poland originally. He is a bone doctor. I forgot the
a bone doctor? Did you say that?
A bone doctor, yes.
Okay.
And he bought a system from me, and when I normally always deliver, as far as possible, deliver systems personally. And he's in Bad Kreuznach in Germany. And when I delivered it to him, he showed me what he really did. But he said he could not really tell all his colleagues about this, because otherwise they would throw him out of the medical society. And he was practicing spiritual healing, what he calls, and it comes from Poland, is phantom surgery. You can Google phantom surgery, you'll find almost nothing. I then said if he gave lectures or seminars or anything, he said, no, he could not do that in Germany. And my wife and I, people who were practicing informational medicine, we founded a society in Switzerland, Radionic Forum.ch. And I said, would you come and give a lecture for us? And he immediately said, yes, no problem, I'd love to. I said, we cannot pay you anything, but we'll pay your hotel room and the food. He said, no problem. And it was one of the occasions, one of our meetings. We have one to two meetings every year for all the Swiss people, apart from the regional groups we had. And it was one of the most successful meetings we had. There were more than 50 people there. That's a lot for Switzerland. In the Hilton Hotel in Zurich. And a lot of people afterwards asked if he did education in this direction. And he said, no, not up to now. But so many people asked that he decided in the end to do so.
Right, on phantom surgery.
On phantom surgery.
Right.
And the people who were at his lecture, his education classes at the beginning, they were all from Switzerland, no one from Germany. And there are a lot of people in Switzerland doing this now, practicing this. And I just did not trust myself to do it.
Right.
And it was when my wife Carla and I were in Brazil at a seminar, and afterwards spent I think 5 days near Abadiania, where John of God is, João de Deus. It was there that it went click with me. And I then contacted Eugen Winchewski, the doctor in Bad Kreuznach, and I said, do you think I could learn this as well? He said, you just have to forget everything that is logical, and then it's no problem. And I did all these educations, and it is quite incredible what one can do.
Like what? Because you're getting me curious now.
Yeah. My first experience was with a lady patient who came to me, and she had been to me before, and she had this whiplash effect when the first time she was there. And in a lot of those cases, I treated her then with informational medicine, and it worked immediately. Although she'd been to several people with atlasology and acupuncture and everything. She tried everything basically up to then. And she then turned up again. She had had 2 more car accidents, another whiplash. And I noticed at the beginning that she had a stiff middle finger. I said, what's the problem there? And she said, I can't bend it. If I want to bend it, it hurts so much through my whole hand, but I'm going to have it operated. I said, we'll do that at the end. And at the end of the consultation, I think it was only about 3 minutes, I treated it. And I said to her afterwards, just bend your finger quite normally. And she said, no, it's not possible. I don't believe it.
Right.
It works.
Okay, so what did you do, David? Because that's, I mean, did you do something on the physical side? We just heard Randy talking about foot and the way the muscles work and the sensations work. Do you do something on a different level? Is it physical?
Visualization.
Visualization.
Visualizing.
You visualize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I can't go into detail. If anyone's interested in this, contact Eugen Winczewski in Bad Kreuznach, and you can experience more the possibilities of the education in this direction. I've already talked to him. He may possibly do or is interested in doing, he likes traveling, in doing a upper class seminar in Sri Lanka in Kalpitia.
Okay, so next year when the center is finished.
Exactly, because this is one of the things. One of our aims, apart from just the possibility of combining healing, treatment with culture, lovely weather, relaxation, we also offer therapists the possibility of coming with their patients and treating them there in a surrounding which is spiritually and energetically so strong that any treatment anyone does in this direction will have a multi effect, the far greater effect than they would have treating them, say, in Europe.
Yeah, I can imagine something. We spoke earlier. There was a geobiologist, a building biologist, which you know about probably as well, because it's quite strongly represented in Germany, about the effects of how our houses are built, what kind of materials are used, what kind of where they are situated on the grid, and so on. And I can imagine, and then we're not even talking about GMTS masts and so on, and the effects of Wi-Fi and chemtrails and so on. But I would imagine that a part of it, that whole surrounding, is not so industrialized as Switzerland or the rest of Europe or the States is, the Western world, like we put it that way, every industrialized part of this world. That Sri Lanka is less built upon, possibly, as well?
Sri Lanka is very small.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the size exactly of the island, but there are 4 million people living there, and there is not all that much room. But there are large areas which have sanctuaries for animals, and they are protected. They are very much engaged in environmental protection.
Right.
That is clear. Apart from the fact that, of course, not many people, although you would not believe it when you drive through Colombo, not many people can afford a vehicle at all. Firstly, the cost of living is not very high, but wages are also very low.
Okay.
When you think that a worker, he earns maybe 7-8 euros a day, not per hour. And vehicles, they have a tax levy of import tax levy of 400%, which makes vehicles very expensive and almost unaffordable. Whether this is just for tax reasons or whether it is also with the environment in the background, the thoughts about the environment, I would like to think of it that way.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I have seen pictures on your website of the new place where you want to, where the building starts, which you've chosen, which looks gorgeous. And I presume that no, I shouldn't say that, presume. But what I'm thinking of is I can very well see that as a very harmonious and balanced building as well.
Definitely.
I think you've
I'm also taking care that as far as building materials and everything is concerned, that they're healthy.
Yeah.
Because there are, although it's been forbidden for some months now, they're still using asbestos for roofing.
I hope you stay away from that one.
My general contractor wanted that at the beginning with one of the houses that was planned, which we've dropped now. But I said right from the beginning, no. And
you've got to be very strict in what you want to set up there. Yes. Okay. So, David, these are plans. How did you, apart from the whole thing with the development and meeting people in the right time, the right place, synchronicity, your whole development to this point, there was also something that triggered that off. I've understood that. And something that, because you've got an extensive history and experience in healthcare, both on the holistic side as a practitioner, but also through the care of your wife and your own experiences that followed upon her passing over. Would you care to explore that a little bit with me so that we can get a bit of a feeling of of the topic of your of what you were talking about, what you chose, which was the broken heart syndrome. And the question I'm asking is actually the discrepancy between healthcare in the conventional healthcare, or the system as it is at the moment, and the gaps in between, and your own care in the and experience in the holistic side.
It's not an easy thing to talk about, Katerina, but I will do so. Maybe we just had bad luck, but my wife was ill for some time. But we just, I think in the hospital here, we, to a large extent, I'd like to think it that way, we just had bad luck. There were mistreatments, there were wrong diagnoses, bad treatment. I mean, if you are in intensive care unit, and even there, they do an infusion, and the needle is in the wrong place and not in the vein, paravenous, and they don't even notice that. It's not a very good sign, and things just went wrong the whole time. And of course, my wife was in the lucky situation that I was always attentive and noticed when things were going wrong. And a lot of people have said to me, look, your wife was lucky that she had you. A normal person who has no or very little medical knowledge, he can't do, or he or she cannot do anything, because they just have to assume that the doctors are doing the right thing. And the thing, The thing which was most difficult was when my wife had the diagnosis. She had epilepsy in her brain. And it turned out that this diagnosis, after a long time, it took a long time. It turned out this diagnosis was completely wrong. But they gave her a certain medicine, and this medicine has so many side effects. Loss of hair, change of the skin condition, being groggy up to the stadium of stupor, where they just sit there and are not there. And of course, basically, one should not read all these descriptions of the medicine you get, because the companies who produce them, the pharma companies, they have to protect themselves, and everything is listed which could possibly occur. But I told our GP then, I said, look, could we not at least reduce this medicine? And he said, it's no condition. She's not really there or not here. But we're taking the risk that the epilepsy will go over to the body. And I said, look, I'm prepared to take that into account. And he agreed in the end. We reduced it by 1/3. She was at first on 1,000 milligrams a day, and then we reduced it to 700. And he saw the improvement after a few weeks, and reduced it again to 500 milligrams. And in the end, we were down to 300 milligrams, and she was getting better and better and better, almost normal. And I said to him, can we not reduce it again? And he said, no, we'll forget it completely.
Oh, and David, can I just ask, was she in the hospital during this time, or was she with you?
She was at home.
She was at home. Okay.
This was a big problem for me, because although we were at a stage basically where we did not have to talk, we just communicated. You know this. I mean, for instance, my wife always came with me when I went to customers. She waited normally in the car, or went for a walk, or some shopping or something. I would maybe think in the car, oh, what can we cook for dinner today? And a couple of minutes later, without me even saying anything, my wife made a suggestion. It was just this way of communicating.
Yes.
And this was a sad thing at home, that I could ask her something, and 3 times I did not get an answer. She was not there. I didn't get through to her.
Yeah. So you noticed the difference straight away.
But I must praise our GP, because he had the greatness to apologize afterwards. And so he accepted this diagnosis from the hospital. He had no other choice, basically. He could not imagine that it was just a medicine, but he should have made a question mark, and he apologized, really.
Right.
That was great.
That's wonderful, and that will help you as well in dealing with this, with what happened afterwards.
I did get a lot of help from him as well. And it was 6 weeks after my wife passed away that I had a big crisis. I had heart pain in the night. I went to him the next morning, and he immediately called the ambulance and put me in hospital with suspicion of either heart failure, or heart attack, or angina pectoris. And it turned out that it was angina pectoris. Everything was okay, apart from the fact that they said my heart muscle was only working up to 30%. Everyone I know, colleagues, relations, friends, they all said it was psychological. This is also my opinion.
Emotional, psychological. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but convince a doctor of that. He just looked at his laboratory results and CTs and whatever, X-rays, everything. And that's what he looks at. And this is the sad thing. That most of the people in the medical profession, I mean, in the professional medical profession, now that's the wrong way to put it. We're professionals as well, but you know what I mean. It's school medicine.
School medicine, yes.
They had no education in psychology at all.
Or the correlation between emotions and physical health. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They have no idea. And they do, I mean, if you say something to someone, it's information. There are 6 small words which have led to the most suicide attempts and suicides. And those 6 words, Katarina, these 6 words, you can send a short message on the phone. You can send an email. You can write it in Skype. You can tell it on Skype. You can tell it to the person directly. It doesn't matter. I don't love you anymore. I do. But we know each other very well. Just have to explain that to the public. And school doctors don't realize this, what words can have an effect. I remember very well in a nursing home my wife was in, here in St. Gallen. I always built my wife up. I said several times a day, I said, everything will be okay. You'll get healthy again, you'll come back home, everything. I said it several times again. She always nodded. Because she was a very strong person, and she believed this as well. And she'd been in that nursing home not even a week. And the professor came on visit. And he came in, looked at me, and said, I heard you're very positive. I said, well, of course. He said, your wife is very ill. She can still die. And we have to make sure we find another nursing home. She can't stay here forever.
Excuse me? Wow. This is back in your face.
I was shattered. I was completely shattered.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he said, and by the way, when she has physiotherapy and logopedy and all these treatments, I don't want you to be present.
Did he give a reason for that, David?
No, but I know the reason. It was a young physiotherapist who was new, and I had to show him how the bed worked. It's one of these beds you can put up completely to get the circulation going, and he didn't know how it worked. But I didn't say he was an idiot or anything, but he was a bit ashamed. And this professor then left, and that was the first time that when I said to my wife, everything will be okay in the end, you'll come home and everything, she said no. It was just these 2 minutes where the professor said this.
Yeah.
And this is why information is so important. We're living in an informational age. But positive information can work wonders.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, David, I'm going to go back to the moment that you were in the hospital for yourself.
Yeah.
Because you found out something afterwards on this typical condition that everybody said it's psycho-emotional. And then you,
All the people I know, the doctor said no, it's physical. Stop smoking, stop drinking, then you'll be okay.
okay.
Okay, I admit, without being ashamed, that at that time I was smoking too much, I was drinking too much, I was in a bad state. I was having depressions and everything, and it was all this mounting up which led to this heart failure. But I only found out a couple of months later. I normally, although I live in Switzerland, I normally watch the German television channels. But there is one series of documentary films in Switzerland. It's called Einstein. Einstein was a tremendous person. We won't have time today to talk about it, but I think I sent you this, what he said about love.
Mm-hmm.
Love is the strongest thing we know. And again, this is this positive information.
Positive information, that's it.
Yeah.
Whether we said it or not doesn't matter. It is about that love is the strongest emotion and feeling, and words is positive indeed.
Yeah. And I only found out, I just suddenly one evening I turned on to the Swiss TV channel, and there was this Einstein program. And right at the beginning, they bought a documentary about the broken heart syndrome. And
Right.
it's university, it is an official diagnosis. University hospital in Zurich have 3,000 documentations. And they have the most documentations of any hospital in the world. But here in St. Gallen, they don't know anything about it. One would think that Zurich and St. Gallen were 5,000 miles apart. It's only 80 kilometers. And I also recently mentioned this to my GP. He said, "Is that an official diagnosis? I don't know that."
Okay, David, I did some reading up on it, and I typed in Google broken heart syndrome, and luckily times are changing, and they're changing fast, because on the American Heart Association there is a topic on broken heart syndrome with a description of it and the symptoms of it and where they are differing, in what they are differing from a real heart attack.
Yeah.
And also the extra symptoms that you can get from it. Apparently, in the long run, if it goes on too long, then there are long symptoms that do damage to the heart in itself as a muscle. But in the shorter run, it is resolvable. That's the good news.
That was at the end of this documentary as well. They interviewed a lady, and this was the great news. For me, the great news. You can recover completely.
Yes.
And I had actually day before yesterday, on Monday, I had a checkup again at the local hospital, and they said the end of 2014, after it happened in July, I had a checkup again, and it was better then. And they said, "Oh, thanks to the medicine we gave you." And the situation now is that it is stable. And I also said to them, I said, "Look, can you guarantee to me that my heart muscle has not always worked this way?"
That's a good question.
They said, "No. It's possible, of course, as well."
David, did you do, besides the medication that the hospital gave you, the pharmaceutical drugs, did you do anything else from your holistic background on yourself?
Well, I did, of course, use Theragem a lot.
Mm-hmm.
With rose quartz, which is the stone which is love. directly on the heart, balancing. I did that fairly regularly. And I'm certain that helped as well.
Okay. Did you take any other, were there other things that you thought beneficial for yourself, being in touch with what you now are going to offer as well in the new healing center?
This decision to change my life completely and have
Right.
really have a goal, which helped. What did not help the situation was the situation, but many people have experienced this in such cases. The situation with my stepchildren.
Family issues, yes, it won't help.
This chapter is shut now, completely.
Good. Okay, so you've made some steps. You've gone through a whole cycle where you were able to, at one point, to diagnose yourself, make that known. Had a whole history on experience in the allopathic medicine, and your other part as well, the experience in the as being a holistic practitioner yourself. You know how important it is to give information to people and how you give that information to people so that they can then lift themselves up, and yourself as well. So that is a whole process in itself. And indeed, the figures, like here, for example, this morning on the news, I think that we had a record number of suicides in the UK this year of over 5,000 people, which is enormous.
Yeah.
It's 1 year. It is enormous.
Yeah.
And I hear from several sides that people are most treated. What the condition is depression. And depression affects the heart. It's one of the things that is described in this broken heart syndrome. And broken heart syndrome not only is related to or is being experienced after the passing of a loved one, but also via when a divorce happens,
Okay.
you know, financial circumstances. There's a lot of things like that. Heavy changes in a regular pattern.
Yeah.
And what we see on a regular basis, almost daily basis, that people can't handle the situation that is presented to them, and they're constantly in a state of high sympathetic nervous system where the fight or flight syndrome is enormous, so that the parasympathetic can't get back to a balance, a normal balance. So will you be able to offer something on that in your clinic as well, apart from the lovely surroundings and the treatments and that you're going to offer? Is there anything that you're going to be looking at for that?
I'm happy to say I will have 4 therapy gem systems with me.
Okay. Okay, that was not my question, but okay. I would think, are you going to do something else there as well? I mean, we were talking about walking barefoot in the previous hour, Drendy Edie. Earlier today, it was about water, structured water, for example, because that's relaxation. Before that was Dr. Balin with thermography and giving exercises to stimulate the parasympathetic and bring the sympathetic down and bring the parasympathetic up.
We will offer a range of treatments, possible treatments. Also beauty treatments. I mean, people, when they are on vacation, they have more time. They don't turn the penny over 3 times before they spend it. And that is also, it's good for your soul. And why a range of treatments? I'm not concentrating on one because I think people ought to have the choice. They have to think, oh, that will do me good, or that will do me good. I trust that. And I'm going to go on to something here, Katarina, which for me is very important to be able to say this. On the page where you introduced the marathon today, you wrote, each of us has a God-given right to our own bodies and to decide how we take care of them. Without knowledge of the choices available to us, our freedom is limited. We have this situation here in a lot of European countries. I'll be absolutely honest. They can come and police can come and get me afterwards if they want to. Germany is in a very bad state.
Yeah.
It's very sad what happened in Berlin yesterday.
Yes. And one of those
that is not what I mean, because they do not have this freedom. They are limited, and the laws are such that you have great difficulty in propagating any holistic treatment.
Yeah, we've heard something about that recently, about some therapists who were saying a little bit too much, and they were tapped on the fingers by the authorities and had to take down websites. And it's not the only one. And that's only a tip of the iceberg. There's no freedom of speech.
No, I mean, okay,
Well,
it's the pharma lobby to a large extent, which are behind all this. They have a great power, that is obvious. They're big companies, big good taxpayers, and they want to prevent natural medicine. That is quite clear. They don't say it openly, but is that what the man on the street wants? It is not. We had this. So I'm sorry, my English sometimes is not very good. I've been speaking German for the last 50 years, and I never believed one would.
I think you're doing very well.
One does. They had this Volksabstimmung. People could go and vote if they wanted homeopathy or not. And the largest part of the Swiss people said they wanted it. But there was a doctor in Berlin who said this was all a lot of idiots practicing this and everything.
Yeah.
It had no effect. It didn't work. In the end, the government did allow it to a certain extent, but only if it was only with a big piece of freedom, if it was practiced by school medicine people. And I mean, you're not. It's not the same if you go to an experienced homeopath who's had years of experience, years of education in this field. It's not the same as you go to a school doctor who's had a crash course and is just only did this crash course not because he was convinced that homeopathy is good, but so he can keep his patients or get more.
Mm.
I mean, just look at the doctors today here in Switzerland. A lot of them, they retire before the retiring age, and they're glad to be able to stop. Not to some extent also because of the government, who put restrictions the whole time. And I mean, I had one very good friend. He said he retired earlier because he said, "I'm not going to work just to pay taxes." And he's a good doctor, but I know that my GP, for instance, he has health problems, and I don't know if it's still the case, but on Friday and Saturday morning, he did not work. He took a long weekend, Friday to Sunday, and normally the practice is open on Saturday morning as well, and the whole Friday. And he looked for someone who was perhaps just retired and still wanted to do a bit of work 1.5 days a week. He found no one nearby who wanted to do it. He found someone on the other side of Switzerland in the end.
Wow.
Near Basel.
It's a common theme that we hear of, that the ones that get the experience, they're so inundated with, whatever it is that they're practicing, that they're then not finding the energy anymore to keep continuing it. It's a passion. The passion is sucked out of it. I hear this from very many countries, David, and I think that was one of the things that you said at the beginning of when you thought these plans for Sri Lanka over, of making a therapy center that therapists could come there and recharge their batteries, because obviously. Also therapists, like we're organizing now this big event, and we're squeezing with everybody because everybody's got it's got a busy schedule, which we all appreciate, of course, but at the same time, to have the retreat and to take care of yourself, to show that particular part that we're advocating, especially in integrative healthcare, that we're advocating so strongly, that we take some time for ourselves, even if it's on a little daily basis of 2 minutes in the morning and 2 minutes in the evening, but get that quality time for yourself and move on then from there and have it extended as well. You know me, I'm running around like a mad woman as well with my company. I've been able to get that a little bit down, the traveling. But it's something that is an extensive part of our society, and we need to be retaught this particular health subject on ourselves. So, David, if people are interested in visiting you at one particular stage or not in Sri Lanka, how would they get in touch with you?
There's a contact possibility through the website.
Okay, so what's the website again? Will you please remind me?
Yes, www.chhc-sl.com.
Okay, does it stand for something?
Yes, Carla's Heritage Health Center.
Okay, that's lovely. That's in the name of and memory of your wife, I presume. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Just one last thing, Kadri, if I may say so. You said you know many doctors all over the world who retire early and all this stuff. Do people who practice alternative medicine, are they in that?
They're forced to. They're forced to, David.
No, they always work longer. If their health allows it, they work longer. I would be retired now as well, basically. But
no, you won't. No.
I have this helper syndrome, I call it. I said it's only my only chronic illness I have. And I think most of the people who practice alternative medicine, it's love to the other human beings. It's what John of God says as well, and that is his. You probably can't see it.
His symbol.
His symbol, and it's okay. It's Portuguese. It says fé, belief, amore, love, and I forget the third word. But the third word is love your neighbor.
Yes, that's a wonderful way to, what we're doing here. So, David, I would like to, we've come to the end
I know.
almost full hour. So I would like to thank you very much for your contribution here. I think it's been a different journey as what we heard and seen before. And it's one of a very personal one. And I thank you for opening up here. I know it's not been easy at times, but I think you're encountering in a new direction, which I'm very happy to keep looking and following and maybe visiting even, and maybe there are others as well who are listening to this to visit you in the future. I'm going to say thank you to you, and then I'm going to Karen, and Karen is, hi Karen, there you are. Yes.
Okay, I'll just say goodbye. Love and light to all.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.